Hey everybody, I'm Seth Monahan, the guy who makes all these videos, and you are apparently one of those weird people who likes to learn about music theory on the internet. Good for us! Today I'm going to talk about 3 ways that classical composers used the 6th chord, also known as the submediant. The first 2 uses of the submediant came up when I introduced harmonic function way back in video 17. Back then I explained that 6 could function as a kind of substitute tonic, but that it could also act as a predominant. We've actually seen the first of these a few times, but not the second one. And there's a third use of 6, which is as a bridging chord, which connects tonic to predominant. But before we dive into the musical examples, I want to mention that mostly everything I say here is equally true in major and minor keys, despite the fact that I somehow, without ever meaning to, picked mostly examples for major keys. Totally an accident. Anyway, let's talk about 6 as a tonic substitute. The principle is simple. Root position 6 can follow 5 or 5/7, replacing tonic. We can see this really clearly in the opening of Mozart's Clarinet Quintet. Check out the first 4 chords. The bass line is 1, 3, 5, and 6, and the chords are 1, 1, 6, 5, 7, and 6, acting as a tonic substitute. Now, a few points here. First, I put that T for tonic function in scare quotes here because 6 can stand in for tonic, but it doesn't actually feel like a tonic chord. It's always going to be a different quality than the tonic. Right here we're in major, but 6 is a minor chord. And it doesn't create the same sense of stability at all. Indeed, the whole point of using 6 like this is that while the music flows naturally into it from the dominant, it also stalls closure. Listen to how this would sound if Mozart had just used 1 instead of 6. It almost sounds like a cadence, but with 6, there's this sense that the music has to keep moving. And one of the reasons that the music flows so naturally into 6 here is that the upper voices of 5/7 move just as they would have if we had gone to tonic. Most importantly, the tendency tones of 5/7 resolve just like they're supposed to. The leading tone G sharp in the tenor voice goes up to tonic, just like it should. The chordal 7th D natural falls to C sharp, just like it should. And the top voice B natural, scale degree 2, also falls to tonic, which it usually does. The only difference is that the bass of 5/7 moves up by step to scale degree 6. This is often called a deceptive bass motion. Now, what's neat here is that Mozart does exactly the same thing 2 bars later. Bar 3 is all predominant with a few passing tones, and then 5/7 goes to 6 a second time, once again denying tonic closure and the stability that would bring. As for the rest of the phrase, Mozart flirts with the tonic by leading 4 into 1/6, an instance of the subdominant function we learned about in the last video. And then there's a cadence formula that finally puts the root position tonic in place, giving us stability at last. So when we listen, notice how long he makes us wait for that root position tonic. The next example is also from a Mozart clarinet piece. This time it's the rondo from the A major concerto. This theme is built as a parallel interrupted period, and the antecedent phrase has 2 overlapping functional cycles. The first moves tonic, dominant, tonic. And the second, which goes across the mid-phrase break, takes us into the half cadential 5 through a predominant. The consequent phrase starts the same way, but this time 5/7 goes to 6 as a tonic substitute. But notice that this time the bass doesn't go directly from 5 to 6. It moves through E sharp, a chromatic passing tone, en route to F sharp. This is extremely common, and it also happens to make a third chord between 5 and 6, but we're not going to talk about that now. What we will talk about is how conventional the cadential pattern is, 4, 5, 7, and 1, and then we're going to listen to the whole excerpt. The best known use of these deceptive motions is at so-called deceptive cadences, which aren't really cadences at all. Instead, they're a kind of cadence evasion, a bait and switch technique where an expected cadence doesn't actually arrive. We talked about these in video 13. And in that video, we saw this passage from Beethoven's Last Piano Concerto. Let's hear it again, and as we do, listen for the deceptive resolution of the cadential dominant, and for the cadential extension that follows. As it plays, I'm going to start annotating the harmonies around here. Another reason we're revisiting this excerpt is that it also includes a different use of the submediant. Let's listen to those first 2 bars again and then do some analysis. Beethoven starts on tonic, moves through a fancy chord we won't talk about, and then on to 6. Then he repeats 6, which goes directly to 5, and then finally to 1. Functionally, the last 2 chords are obviously dominant and tonic, but here 6 leads directly from tonic into that 5, meaning that 6 is functioning as a predominant here. This is our second use of the submediant. Listen again. And the main thing you have to know about 6 as a predominant is that it's just not used very often. We do see it, but only occasionally. And we only assign that function when 6 is the only predominant in a phrase. Let's listen to another example. This one is a chorale from one of Bach's many cantatas, and right at the beginning, he uses a short functional cycle with 6 as the predominant. Notice the counterpoint here as well. The bass line starting with 6 is 6, 5, 1. But the upper voice moves 1, 2, 3. This is no coincidence. Many, if not most, instances of this progression, 6 to 5 to 1, use this rising pattern in the upper voice. Though not all of them. Notice that Bach uses this same progression at the very end of the chorale, and it doesn't appear there. Here's how it sounds. But Schumann does use that rising 1, 2, 3 melody in his song Blondel's Lied. Indeed, he uses it 3 times. First in the introduction, as shown here. And then he does it twice in a row during the first vocal line. One more predominant example. This is from Mozart's Hunt Quartet. The phrase starts with the bass line 1, 7, 1, 5, 1, which signals an alteration of tonics and dominants. Then he closes the phrase with a bass line that rises into tonic by step, 6, 7, 1. This obviously suggests predominant, dominant, and tonic, but curiously, instead of the 4-6 we might expect here, Mozart uses 6 into 5-6 into 1. It's not something you hear every day, but it's a great sound. All right, 2 down, 1 to go. The last main use of 6 is as a so-called bridging chord. We get this when 6 appears between tonic and predominant. The example on screen shows the vocal entrance from Frühlingstraum, or Springtime Dream, from Schubert's song cycle Winterreise. And the chord progression here is one you've probably heard a million times. Its hallmark is a bass line that descends by thirds. So we start on tonic, we drop by third to root position 6, drop down by third again to 2-6, our predominant, and then from there it's up to 5-7, the cadential dominant, and on to tonic. Here's how it sounds. Ich träumte von bunten Blumen, so wie sie wohl blühen im Mai. So a few things here. I want you to notice that this bass line, 1, 6, 4, 5, is not just common in classical music. It is all over the place in Western pop music since at least World War II. Swap out the 2-6 for a 4 chord, and you've got like the iconic progression of doo-wop in the 1950s. And it never really goes away. It's in fake British reggae from the 1970s. It's in power ballads of the 1980s. And it made an unexpected appearance at the 2017 Super Bowl halftime show.
You're giving me a million reasons to let you go. You're giving me a million reasons to quit the show. You're giving me a million reasons. Give me a million reasons. Giving me a million reasons. About a million reasons.
And I bet the odds were probably 1,000,000 to 1 that you thought you'd run into Lady Gaga here. So second, you might be wondering why there's no function under the 6 chord. That's because I'm just not sure I hear one. It feels to me like we're kind of connecting two functional harmonies without quite having a clear function itself. And I know a lot of analysts agree with me, so I just put an ellipsis under the 6 chord in the functional analysis to show it linking tonic and predominant. Now, since this is a really common progression, let's hear it a few more times in classical pieces. Here it is in the opening vamp of another Schubert song from the same period. Here's our 1 minor mode example. And here it is at the opening of Mozart's G major violin sonata K379. But the bass doesn't always fall by thirds. Another option is for the bass to fall by fifth from 6 into a 2 chord. We see this in Schumann's C major piano fantasy. It starts with a standard plagal progression 1 to 4 to 1. And it ends with tonic moving through 1-6 into 5. But the middle span is a functional cycle in which 6 connects tonic with a root position 2 chord, which then moves on to a root position 5. So the bass line starts with the drop of a third, but from there it's all motions by fifth. Here's how it sounds. Another variant of this progression leads into 6 from an inverted tonic. Here's one of my favorite scenes from Mozart's Magic Flute, where Papageno has to sing with a giant padlock on his mouth. And then Tamino responds with basically the same progression, although now starting on 5/4-2 instead of tonic. For an even more artful version of the 1-6-2-5 progression, we can turn to Beethoven's Spring Sonata, which you've seen in several other videos, I think. The opening of this theme is built from 2 functional cycles, one that's really long, like 8 bars, and one that's really short, only 2 bars. He starts with 2 bars of tonic, then goes to 6 as a bridging chord, and then on to 2 as a predominant. But the inspired thing here is that the first musical idea, call it a phrase or a sub-phrase, people can differ on this, the first 4 bars just end on 2. It sounds like this. And then the next musical idea picks up where we left off, on 2, and then goes through 2 bars of dominant, finally to land on 1-6. And that's where the second cycle starts, moving very quickly again through 6 as a bridging chord, then to 2-6, 2, 5-7, and 1. So when we listen to the whole thing, try to tune yourself into the way the different lengths of these functional cycles affect the dynamic pacing of the theme. In other words, try to feel the long arc of tension created by that first long cycle, which sort of pauses halfway through, as opposed to the quick dash of the second cycle, which drives us forcefully into that closing cadence. So that's all you need to know about the 6 chord, at least for now. But if you're curious about a few less common uses, I've got 2 of them lined up in just a second, but these are strictly for harmony geeks like me, people who want to know about the exceptions as well as the rules. The first one of these has 6 acting as a bridging chord between 1 and 1-6. And this almost always happens under a rising tonic arpeggio, like in the first 3 chords of Mozart's Magic Flute Overture. So the other oddball use of 6 isn't really a classical one at all, strictly speaking. It's more of a mid to late romantic thing, and that's where we connect 2 root position tonics with a 6 chord. This happens mostly after 1850. I think Wagner's Lohengrin Overture is the first really famous instance, but we're going to look at the opening of Bruckner's motet Ave Maria, written in 1861. So here we've got the upper voices holding a tonic F major triad, and the only thing going on for the first 3 bars is that the sopranos go to a neighbor note D natural twice, here and here. But when Bruckner goes to the same D natural a third time, here he puts a root position 6 underneath, which gives the note a slightly different harmonic color, though I wouldn't say it has any kind of strong harmonic function. And while this progression is still pretty rare in classical music, it's extremely common in modern popular music. We find it in practically every genre. Songwriters will just vamp back and forth between 1 and 6, even to the point sometimes where you can't tell which one is the tonic. Probably the most famous instance is Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah.
I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord.
But it turns up all over the place, including the colonial America of Lin-Miranda's Hamilton,
Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy, the stylists.
in the lonely landscapes of nostalgic roots music,
To hear that lonesome whistle blow, shadow of a sail.
And in the sarcastic crooning of the evil robot GLaDOS in Valve's video game Portal.
I'm not even angry. I'm being so sincere right now.
And if you haven't played Portal, well, seriously, what are you doing watching YouTube videos about classical music? Go play Portal. You'll thank me later. Anyway, that's it. Everything you could possibly want to know about Six. I'll be back soon with video number 22, where we'll explore the possibility of hearing harmony moving at several levels at once. It should be a lot of fun. I hope to see you there.